On the 14th of July, 1958, Derry was suffocating in the grip of an anomalous heatwave, a heat that felt to Leo like a living, sweaty wool blanket draped over his shoulders. 9 years old and blinded in an accident 2 years prior, Leo perceived the world as a complex architecture of noises and smells. To him, the city was not a collection of buildings, but a throbbing orchestra. The old abandoned ice factory on the outskirts of town was his favorite haunt. There, the silence possessed a specific, icy weight. Leo stepped into the empty plant, tapping his cane against the concrete floor, and immediately sensed a shift. It was cold here, but not a refreshing chill. It was a dead, stagnant frost, smelling of ammonia and ancient sawdust. Leo stopped in the center of the main hall, listening to a strange sound. It was a rhythmic, wet squelching coming from the depths of a massive, open industrial freezer. "Hey, Leo," a voice rang out, vibrating at a frequency so high it sparked a jaundiced, poison-orange light in the boy's mind. The voice was thin and wheedling, yet beneath it lurked a rumble like a distant rock slide. Leo thrust his cane forward, feeling a tomb-like chill radiating from the freezer. "Who's there?" he asked, his own voice sounding as fragile as thin glass.
Just a friend, Leo. An old pal, Pennywise, the dancing clown. You like it here, do not you? It's so quiet you can hear the mold growing on the walls. Want to see a trick? I can make this ice sing."
He screamed and bolted, navigating by the echo of his own cry, but the clown's laughter, sounding like metal rasping against bone, seemed to erupt from every corner of the factory at once. When Leo reached home, his father, Thomas, sat in the kitchen, steeped in the smell of cheap whiskey and unwept grief. Thomas was a man of few words. His presence felt like a heavy, gray cloud. Leo did not dare tell him about the factory, fearing his father would think him mad, but the fear had already taken root in the boy's soul.
On the 15th of July, as twilight descended upon Derry, the silence in Leo's room was suddenly shattered by a sound that should not have existed indoors. The roar of a powerful waterfall emanating from the drain of the bathroom sink. "You cannot hide from the cold, Leo," a voice whispered from the pipes, thick with the gurgle of blood. The clown was in the house. Leo felt the temperature plummet as the air filled with the stench of wet dog and chlorine. The closet in the corner creaked, and Leo heard something massive and multi-legged squeezing through the narrow slit between the doors. "Your daddy only sees what I allow, Leo." But you hear me smiling, do not you? You hear the skin stretching over my cheekbones. Your fear tastes like ice shavings seasoned with your own blood. The closet burst open, and Leo felt the sting of ammonia. Pennywise began to mimic the sounds of the very accident that had taken Leo's sight. The screech of brakes, the shatter of glass. It all crashed over the boy in a sensory wave of crimson tones. Leo fell to his knees, clutching his ears, until Thomas burst into the room, seeing nothing but a layer of frost on the window pane in the heart of July. Thomas realized the house was no longer a fortress. On the 19th of July, they attempted to flee the city, but the car stalled near the bridge on Kissy Road. The silence of the road was broken by the chime of silver bells drifting from the woods. Out of the thicket stepped the clown. To Thomas, he was a tall man in a strange suit, but Leo felt a massive shroud of black energy swallowing all the sounds of the forest. "Give me the boy, Thomas, and you'll live to see tomorrow," Pennywise said, his voice like a landslide. Thomas leveled his shotgun and fired. To Leo, the shot was a dazzling white flash, but the clown did not even flinch. He moved in jerks, like a figure in a silent movie, emitting a sound like the rustle of dry insect wings.
In an instant, he was at the car. Thomas screamed as a clawed hand ripped the door from its hinges. Leo heard the struggle, the heavy thuds, and then a sharp, wet sound, like a ripe watermelon splitting open. Thomas went silent. The air filled with the scent of fresh blood and ammonia. Leo sat alone, hearing Pennywise lick his chops, a sound like sandpaper moving over raw meat. The clown dragged the boy back to the ice factory. It was his temple of pain. Inside the plant, the echoes became unbearable. Leo understood that Pennywise was using the walls as resonators. They descended into the basement levels, where water had once frozen in great vats. Leo felt the walls vibrating with the voices of thousands of children. It had consumed over 200 years. They were not screaming. They were whispering, a sound like the shuffling of fallen leaves. Hear them, Leo? They all float down here. And you'll float too. Your voice will ring out forever. Pennywise began to shift. The scrape of chitin, the crack of joints, it all fused into one monstrous soundscape. It was taking its true form. It knew that blindness protected Leo from ordinary madness, so it chose to act directly upon his mind, injecting the pure energy of the macroverse into his consciousness. It wanted Leo to see the Deadlights. The 21st of July brought the moment of truth. Leo felt an orange supernova explode in his head. For the first time in years, he saw. But it was not the light of the sun. It was the Deadlights, infinite, swirling orbs of destructive energy. For Leo, this visual nightmare translated into sound. It was a note of such a frequency it should have torn his brain apart. It was the scream of the void itself. Leo collapsed, feeling his identity disintegrate. The boy tried to fight back. He reached for his harmonica, hoping a dissonant sound might ward off the monster. For a fleeting moment, he thought he was winning, that the orange light was retreating before his own melody. He felt a surge of strength and confidence, imagining he could bend this energy to his will. But it was only an illusion, the dancing clown's final joke. Pennywise allowed him to feel hope only so its flavor would be sweeter at the moment of the final collapse. Hope tasted like a ripe peach that suddenly turned into a mouthful of grave worms. Leo did not become the new master of Derry. He did not truly see. When the energy of the Deadlights finally saturated his mind, it did not grant him power. It simply hollowed him out from the inside, leaving behind a vacant shell. Pennywise stood over him, and its laughter sounded like a triumphal march painted in the muddy gray tones of absolute despair. The clown took the boy by the hand and pulled him into the depths of the collector. On the 22nd of July, police found Thomas's empty car on the shoulder, but neither father nor son were ever found. A deep silence fell over Derry. Leo had not died in the traditional sense. His consciousness remained trapped within the Deadlights, in an infinite loop of the very moment he lost his sight. But now he relived it over and over, feeling his soul slowly being digested by something eternal. Years passed. One day, another child, playing near the factory, heard the faint sound of a harmonica drifting from a rusted pipe. The tune was mournful and out of key. The child leaned in to listen and caught the scent of ammonia and old ice. Looking out from the darkness of the pipe were not the orange eyes of a monster, but the charred, empty sockets of a 9-year-old boy who once believed he could defeat the dark. Leo opened his mouth, but instead of words, only the dry rustle of dead leaves emerged. He was just another flicker in the Deadlights, another balloon destined to float forever in the void beneath the city. And in that void, there was no salvation, only the endless, silent scream of a child who realized that in Derry, evil always wins, because evil
is the city. The balloon that drifted slowly from the pipe following the sound of the harmonica was not red or orange. It was pitch black, as dark as the shadows that had finally claimed Leo for good.